You know that feeling of being in the zone when you're fully immersed in an intellectual or a physical task? That state is called flow, and in this video we're going to explore how to achieve a state of flow while sketchnoting. Let's get into it. Hello and welcome to Sketchnote School. I am your host Doug Neill, and I'm excited to explore this topic today, which was inspired by one of my favorite YouTubers, Nerdwriter, who made a video on this topic of flow a couple of years ago actually, but that I just recently watched. And I bring it up in this context because I think that state of flow is something worth seeking as a visual note taker. I want you to be able to enter that state where you're fully immersed and engaged in the task at hand. So let's break down what flow is, the conditions required for it to occur, and what that means for us as sketchnoters. First, it's important to note that flow is one of many emotional states that could exist during an experience. We can express a fuller set of emotions using this graph that has the challenge level of the experience as one variable and your skill level as the other. Taking on a low-level challenge with a low skill level results in apathy. If you keep the challenge low but increase your skill, you'll move on to boredom and then relaxation. If you bump up the challenge level but keep your skills low, first you'll enter a state of worry and then you might suffer from anxiety. But as you begin to match that higher level of challenge with a higher set of skills, you can experience arousal, control, and ultimately flow when the task is challenging but you have just enough skills to meet that challenge. As you gain experience as a visual note taker, the general trend you should seek is toward that place of flow. So let's look at the conditions that are required for it to occur. The first is this: you have to be involved in an activity with a clear set of goals and progress. As a sketchnoter, you have to start by clarifying for yourself why you're about to capture these ideas. You need to define your purpose up front so that you know what your goal is and you can tell when you're making progress. The second condition required for flow is that the task at hand must have clear and immediate feedback. For us, that's an easy one to check off because we can literally see the results of our efforts as we fill the page with visual notes. The third component is likely the most important and the most difficult to achieve. There must be a good balance between the perceived challenges of the task and one's perceived skills. This is where we get back to the graph that we started with. And I want to look more closely at those two variables, your skill level and the challenge level of the task of sketchnoting. Your skill level is something that you have direct control over. With intentional practice, you can build your skills over time, and that's what I hope these videos and my courses help you to do. The challenge level is a bit trickier because there are certain things that you can't control about how challenging the sketchnoting experience is, and other things that you can control. What you can't always control are the external circumstances surrounding the sketchnoting experience. How much information is coming at you over what period of time and how others might be involved. For example, if you're taking notes at school or at a conference or in a meeting, there are so many factors that are outside of your control, compared to when you're reading from a book or listening to a podcast and taking sketch notes in that context. There you have more control over the learning environment. But in either case, what you always do have control over is your sketchnoting process. You get to decide what filter you'll use to determine what makes it onto the page, how many different fonts you'll use, how complicated your layout is, how much in-the-moment drawing to do, and how many colors you use. All of those decisions that you get to make contribute to the challenge level of that sketchnoting experience. So, if the external circumstances that you can't control are challenging, try to balance that out by simplifying your process so that there's as much of a balance as possible between the challenge of the task at hand and the skills that you bring to the table. That, I think, is how best to seek flow as a sketchnoter. You have to choose the right constraints for your context at your skill level. So I encourage you to focus on those variables that you do have control over and continue tweaking them until you find the right combination that allows you to enter that state of flow. Good luck on that search, and I'll see you next time. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed that exploration of the idea of flow, and I do hope that you find it for yourself. If you would like a bit more support on the skill development side of that graph, then check out the courses available at burbletoVisual.com. They will help you build a solid foundation no matter what your specific situation is. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you again soon.